Tonight, we're embarking on a quiet journey through one of the most remarkable defense systems ever created, your immune system. It's working right now as you listen, a silent guardian that never sleeps, never takes a break, never clocks out for the weekend. Let's explore the mysteries of life, one gentle breath at a time. You might think of immunity as something that kicks in when you're sick, like an alarm system that only activates during emergencies. But that's not quite right. Your immune system is more like a gentle, persistent housekeeper, quietly tidying up, patrolling corridors, recognizing friends, and escorting unwanted visitors to the door. It's happening in your bloodstream, in your tissues, even in the spaces between your cells, every moment of every day. Here's something that might surprise you. While you sleep tonight, your immune system will actually become more active, not less. Your T cells will patrol more efficiently, your antibodies will circulate more freely, and your bone marrow will ramp up production of fresh immune cells. Sleep isn't just rest for your mind and muscles. It's prime time for your body's defense force, a shift change where the real healing work begins. Tonight, we'll wander through this invisible world together. We'll meet the cellular citizens of your body's defense force, discover how they communicate in whispers and chemical signals, and explore the elegant ways they remember past encounters. We'll learn why a single drop of your blood contains more immune cells than there are people in most cities, and how these microscopic guardians coordinate their efforts with a precision that would make any orchestra conductor weep with envy. As always, you don't need to memorize any of this. Just let the words wash over you like a warm tide, carrying you gently toward rest, while your own immune system continues its quiet work, protecting you as you drift off to sleep. In the next chapter, we'll begin our journey at the very borders of your body, where the first line of defense stands watch like gentle sentinels at the gates of a peaceful kingdom. Picture this. Right now, as you rest comfortably in your bed, there's an invisible army of trillions of cells moving through your body. They're not marching in formation or carrying tiny weapons. Instead, they're drifting quietly through your bloodstream, sliding between tissues, and communicating in a language of chemical whispers that's been refined over hundreds of millions of years. This is your immune system, and it never, ever stops working. Most of us think about our immune system the way we think about firefighters. They show up when there's trouble, put out the fire, and then disappear until the next emergency. But that's not how immunity really works. Your immune system is more like a 24/7 security service combined with a maintenance crew, a postal system, and a memory bank all rolled into one. It's constantly patrolling, constantly cleaning, constantly learning, and constantly preparing for threats that may never come. Here's something that might surprise you. Your body replaces most of its immune cells every few days to weeks. While you're sleeping tonight, your bone marrow will produce roughly 100 billion new white blood cells. That's more than 10 times the entire human population of Earth, created inside your bones while you dream. These fresh recruits will join the circulation, ready to defend tissues they've never seen against threats they've never encountered, armed with genetic instructions that have been tested and refined across countless generations. Think about what this means for a moment. Every day, your body essentially rebuilds its entire defense force from scratch. It's like having a completely new security team every week, except this team already knows the building layout, recognizes all the regular visitors, and has detailed files on every troublemaker who's ever tried to cause problems. This isn't just cellular replacement. It's the daily miracle of biological memory made flesh. Your immune system operates on multiple levels simultaneously. like a well-orchestrated symphony with many different sections playing their parts. At the most basic level, there are the barriers. Your skin isn't just a covering. It's a living fortress wall, complete with chemical defenses and helpful bacteria that serve as the first line of protection. Beneath that, you have the innate immune system, ancient and reliable, responding to threats with responses that have worked for millions of years. Then there's the adaptive immune system, the more recent evolutionary addition that can learn, remember, and customize its responses to specific threats. This is where the real magic happens. B cells that transform into antibody factories, T cells that coordinate attacks or eliminate infected cells with surgical precision, memory cells that can recognize an enemy decades after the last encounter and mobilize defenses before you even know you've been exposed. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about your immune system isn't its complexity or its efficiency, it's its restraint. Every day, your immune cells encounter millions of harmless substances, food particles, beneficial bacteria, your own tissues, and they make the conscious decision not to attack. This tolerance isn't passive. It's an active, ongoing choice that requires constant communication and careful judgment. Consider your gut, for example. It's home to roughly 37 trillion bacteria, more bacterial cells than you have human cells in your entire body. These microorganisms are essential for your health, helping you digest food, produce vitamins, and even train your immune system. Yet your immune cells must distinguish between these helpful residents and genuinely dangerous invaders, often while both are present in the same space. It's like having a bouncer at a party who needs to welcome the invited guests while keeping out the troublemakers, except the bouncer is microscopic and the party never ends. This decision-making happens through an elegant system of molecular recognition. Immune cells carry receptors that can distinguish between patterns associated with danger and patterns associated with normal cellular life. They read chemical signatures like molecular ID cards, checking credentials millions of times per second. When something doesn't belong or seems damaged, the response is swift but measured. When everything checks out, the patrol continues peacefully. What's truly beautiful about this system is how it manages to be both incredibly powerful and remarkably gentle. A single immune cell can destroy a cancer cell or neutralize a virus. Yet these same cells navigate through delicate tissues without causing damage. They communicate through touch, through chemical signals so subtle they're measured in parts per billion, and through direct cell-to-cell contact that can transfer information in seconds. During sleep, this entire system shifts into a different mode. Your stress hormones drop, allowing immune cells to move more freely. Your lymphatic system, the network of vessels that carries immune cells throughout your body, becomes more active. Growth hormone increases, promoting the repair and regeneration that your immune system coordinates. In a very real sense, sleep is when your body's defense and maintenance systems do their most important work. The coordination required for all of this to work smoothly is staggering. Imagine trying to manage a city where millions of workers need to be in constant communication, where resources must be allocated efficiently, where threats must be identified and neutralized without harming innocent bystanders, and where everything must function perfectly even while the city's inhabitants are unconscious. That's what your immune system accomplishes every single day, using tools and strategies that are both ancient and cutting edge. And here's the most comforting part. None of this requires your conscious attention or effort. You don't need to remember to activate your immune system any more than you need to remember to make your heart beat. It simply works, quietly and efficiently, allowing you to focus on the things that matter to you while it handles the invisible but essential task of keeping you healthy and whole. As we prepare to explore this remarkable system in greater detail, remember that every breath you take, every peaceful moment of rest, is made possible by the tireless work of these cellular guardians. In our next chapter, we'll begin our journey at the very borders of your body, where the first and perhaps most important line of defense maintains its gentle but vigilant watch. Right now, as you listen to these words, you're sitting behind the most sophisticated security system ever devised. It's not made of cameras or alarms or motion sensors. It's made of living tissue that's been quietly protecting you since before you took your first breath. Your skin, your mucous membranes, your tears, even the acid in your stomach, they're all part of an integrated defense network that most invaders never get past. This is your body's border patrol, and it's working right now to keep the outside world safely outside. Let's start with your skin, because it's easy to think of it as just a covering, like a jacket you can't take off. But your skin is actually your largest organ, weighing roughly 8 pounds and covering about 20 square feet of surface area. It's a living barrier that's constantly renewing itself, shedding dead cells from the surface while growing new ones underneath. Every minute, you lose somewhere between 30,000 and 40,000 dead skin cells. That might sound wasteful, but it's actually brilliant strategy. Any bacteria or virus that manages to land on your skin has to deal with a surface that's essentially a moving sidewalk, heading in the wrong direction. Just as they start to get comfortable and try to establish a foothold, the cells they're sitting on get swept away and replaced with fresh, clean surface. It's like trying to build a house on a conveyor belt. Possible, perhaps, but extremely inconvenient for anyone trying to set up permanent residence. But your skin doesn't rely on mechanical removal alone. The surface of healthy skin is slightly acidic, with a pH of around 4.5 to 5.5. This acidic environment is hostile to many bacteria that prefer a more neutral pH. Your skin also produces antimicrobial peptides, tiny protein molecules that can punch holes in bacterial cell walls or interfere with their ability to function. It's chemical warfare at the molecular level, except the weapons are naturally produced and perfectly targeted. Even more remarkable, your skin hosts a diverse ecosystem of beneficial bacteria that help with defense. These microscopic residents, part of what scientists call your skin microbiome, aren't just hitchhikers. They're active participants in your protection. They compete with harmful bacteria for space and nutrients, produce their own antimicrobial compounds, and help train your immune system to distinguish between friend and foe. You're walking around with a living suit of armor that's populated by helpful allies. Now, let's travel inward to the mucous membranes, those moist tissues that line your respiratory tract, digestive system, and other openings to the outside world. These areas face a particular challenge because they need to be permeable enough to allow useful things like oxygen and nutrients to pass through, but selective enough to keep harmful invaders out. It's like manning a border checkpoint that needs to stay open for legitimate travelers while screening out troublemakers. The mucus itself is far more sophisticated than you might imagine. It's not just a sticky barrier, though it certainly functions as one. Mucus contains antibodies, antimicrobial proteins, and enzymes that can break down bacterial cell walls. It also contains lactoferrin, a protein that starves bacteria by binding up the iron they need to survive. When you have a cold and your nose produces what seems like an endless stream of mucus, that's not just your body malfunctioning. It's your body manufacturing and deploying chemical weapons on an industrial scale. The mucus is also in constant motion, thanks to tiny hair-like structures called cilia that beat in coordinated waves. In your lungs, this creates what scientists call the mucociliary escalator, a system that continuously moves mucus and any trapped particles upward and outward. Particles that get caught in the mucus of your lower airways are literally conveyed to your throat, where you can cough them out or swallow them down to your stomach's acid bath. It's a biological conveyor belt with a very specific destination, away from your delicate lung tissue. Speaking of your stomach, let's pause to appreciate one of your body's most dramatic defensive measures. Your stomach acid has a pH of between 1 and 2, making it nearly as acidic as battery acid. This isn't an accident or a design flaw. It's a chemical sterilization system that can destroy most bacteria, viruses, and parasites that make it past your other defenses. The few organisms that can survive in such an environment have had to evolve very specific adaptations, which is why stomach infections are relatively rare despite the constant stream of potentially contaminated food and drink that passes through. Your tears and saliva deserve mention too, because they're doing much more than keeping your eyes moist and helping you chew food. Both contain lysozyme, an enzyme that can slice through bacterial cell walls like a molecular pair of scissors. They also contain immunoglobulin A, an antibody that's specifically designed for mucosal defense. Every time you blink, you're washing your eyes with a custom-formulated antimicrobial solution. Every time you swallow, you're rinsing your mouth and throat with natural antiseptic. Perhaps the most comforting aspect of these barriers is how they work automatically, requiring no conscious thought or effort. Your skin renews itself while you sleep. Your mucus flows continuously without your awareness. Your tears and saliva are produced and distributed without any need for your attention. It's a security system that never takes a break, never gets distracted, and never forgets its job. The elegance of this system lies in its restraint as much as its power. These barriers are strong enough to keep out dangerous invaders, but gentle enough to allow normal functions like breathing, eating, and absorbing nutrients. They can ramp up their defenses during times of threat and dial them back down when the danger passes. They maintain a delicate balance between protection and permeability that keeps you both safe and functional. What makes all of these barriers even more impressive is how they work together as an integrated system. Your skin keeps most threats from getting in. Your mucous membranes catch and neutralize the ones that find other ways inside. Your stomach acid destroys the persistent few that make it past the upper barriers. And all of these systems are constantly communicating with the rest of your immune system, sending chemical signals about what they're encountering and whether additional help is needed. These first-line defenses also adapt to your environment and lifestyle. If you spend time in dusty conditions, your respiratory system will produce more mucus to help trap particles. If you're exposed to more bacteria, your skin will adjust its chemical defenses accordingly. If you eat spicy food regularly, your digestive system will modify its responses to handle the temporary irritation. Your barriers are not just static walls. They're dynamic, responsive systems that learn and adjust. The microbiome deserves special recognition as perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of your barrier defenses. The trillions of beneficial bacteria living on and in your body aren't just passive residents. They actively participate in your defense by crowding out harmful microorganisms, producing substances that inhibit pathogen growth, and communicating with your immune cells. They're like a neighborhood watch program, except the neighbors are microscopic and they never sleep. But sometimes, despite all these careful defenses, something does get through. A cut in your skin, a particularly persistent virus, or an overwhelming exposure might breach these barriers. When that happens, your body doesn't panic or give up. Instead, It activates the next level of protection, a more active and targeted response system that's been waiting patiently for just such occasions. In our next chapter, we'll meet the ancient guardians of your innate immune system, whose responses are swift, decisive, and remarkably effective at containing threats that slip past your first line of defense. Imagine that somewhere in your body right now, there's a microscopic security guard making a life or death decision. A bacteria has just slipped through a tiny cut on your finger, past your skin's careful defenses, and into the warm, nutrient-rich environment of your tissues. Within seconds, this guard will decide whether this intruder represents a genuine threat or just another harmless visitor. The remarkable thing is, this guard has never seen this particular bacteria before, yet it will make the right choice almost instantly. Welcome to your innate immune system, the ancient wisdom that's been protecting life on Earth for over 1 billion years. Your innate immune system is like having a highly trained emergency response team that's been practicing the same proven strategies for countless generations. Unlike the adaptive immune system, which learns and remembers specific threats, your innate defenses rely on pattern recognition. They've evolved to spot the molecular signatures that dangerous organisms tend to share, the telltale signs that something doesn't belong in your peaceful cellular neighborhood. The first responders in this system are your neutrophils, and they're nothing short of remarkable. These cells make up about 60% of your white blood cells, and they're essentially microscopic kamikaze pilots with a single-minded mission. Find trouble and eliminate it, even if it means sacrificing themselves in the process. When tissue damage or infection occurs, neutrophils can sense the chemical distress signals from miles away, in cellular terms, and they'll race toward the source faster than almost any other cell in your body. Here's what makes neutrophils so effective. They're loaded with toxic granules containing enzymes and antimicrobial proteins that can destroy bacteria on contact. When a neutrophil encounters an invader, it can engulf the threat and literally digest it alive using these cellular weapons. But neutrophils have an even more dramatic trick up their sleeve. When they're overwhelmed or dying, they can expel their own DNA in sticky nets called neutrophil extracellular traps, or nets, that can ensnare bacteria like molecular spider webs. Think about the biological poetry of this for a moment. A cell sacrifices its own genetic material, the very instruction manual for its existence, to create a trap for invaders. It's like a guard throwing his own rulebook at an intruder, except the rulebook turns into an inescapable net that contains antimicrobial weapons. These NETs can catch bacteria, fungi, and even some viruses, holding them in place while other immune cells arrive to finish the job. But neutrophils are just the opening act. The real stars of the innate immune system are the macrophages, whose name literally means big eaters. If neutrophils are the emergency responders, macrophages are the cleanup crew, the investigators, and the neighborhood watch, all rolled into one. These cells can live for months or even years, patrolling tissues and maintaining order with a combination of power and finesse that would make any police detective envious. Macrophages are shapeshifters, able to squeeze through the tiniest gaps between cells and extend arm-like projections, called pseudopodia, to grab onto their targets. When they encounter debris, damaged cells, or pathogens, they simply engulf them whole in a process called phagocytosis. But unlike neutrophils, which often die in the process of fighting infection, macrophages can digest their prey and live to fight another day. They're the recycling centers of your immune system, breaking down cellular waste and foreign material and repurposing the useful components. What makes macrophages truly special is their ability to communicate. After digesting a pathogen, they can display pieces of it on their surface, like molecular wanted posters, showing other immune cells exactly what they've encountered. This process, called antigen presentation, bridges the gap between your innate and adaptive immune systems. It's how your body's ancient defenses can educate its more sophisticated learning systems about new threats. During sleep, macrophages become particularly active in your brain, where they help clear out metabolic waste and damaged proteins that accumulate during waking hours. It's like having a night shift maintenance crew that comes in while the office is closed to empty the trash cans and fix what's broken. This is one reason why sleep is so essential for brain health and why chronic sleep deprivation can lead to cognitive problems over time. Then we have the natural killer cells, or NK cells, which sound more intimidating than they actually are. These cells specialize in finding and eliminating your own cells that have become infected with viruses or transformed into cancer cells. They're like internal affairs investigators, constantly checking to make sure your cells are behaving normally and haven't been compromised by internal threats. NK cells are remarkably sophisticated for an innate immune cell. They can recognize when your cells are displaying abnormal proteins on their surface, or when they've stopped displaying the normal self-markers that identify them as belonging to you. When they find a compromised cell, they can inject it with toxic proteins that cause it to die in a controlled, orderly fashion. It's cellular euthanasia, performed with precision and without causing unnecessary inflammation or damage to surrounding tissues. The coordination between all these innate immune cells happens through a complex network of chemical signals called cytokines and chemokines. These molecular messengers can attract immune cells to sites of trouble, activate their defensive functions, and coordinate their activities. It's like having a sophisticated communication system that allows emergency responders to share information and coordinate their efforts in real time, except it's all happening at the molecular level. One of the most important aspects of the innate immune system is its speed. While adaptive immunity can take days or weeks to mount a full response to a new threat, innate immunity responds within minutes to hours. This rapid response can mean the difference between a minor infection that's quickly contained and a serious illness that spreads throughout the body. Your innate immune system is the first line of active defense, buying time for the more sophisticated adaptive responses to mobilize. The ancient nature of these responses is actually one of their greatest strengths. The pattern recognition receptors that your innate immune cells use to identify threats have been tested and refined over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. They recognize molecular patterns that are found in bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites, but not in healthy human cells. This means they can spot trouble quickly and accurately, without needing to learn what each specific pathogen looks like. Perhaps most remarkably, your innate immune system manages to be both incredibly powerful and surprisingly restrained. These cells could easily cause massive tissue damage if they weren't carefully controlled, but they've evolved sophisticated mechanisms to limit their activity to appropriate times and places. They can ramp up their responses during infections and dial them back down when the threat passes, maintaining the delicate balance between protection and preservation of healthy tissue. As you drift towards sleep tonight, these ancient guardians will continue their vigilant patrol, their responses honed by millions of years of evolutionary testing. But sometimes, even these experienced defenders encounter threats that require a more sophisticated approach, challenges that demand not just pattern recognition, but true learning and memory. In our next chapter, we'll discover how your adaptive immune system builds upon this ancient foundation to create personalized, precise, and long-lasting protection against the specific threats you encounter throughout your life. While you were sleeping last night, something extraordinary happened in your body. Cells you've never heard of were quietly making decisions that could protect you for decades to come. A B cell somewhere in your lymph nodes encountered a fragment of a virus you picked up weeks ago, recognized it as a threat, and began transforming itself into a living factory capable of producing millions of precisely targeted weapons. This is your adaptive immune system at work, and it's perhaps the most sophisticated learning system in the known universe. Unlike the ancient innate responses we explored earlier, adaptive immunity is evolution's most recent innovation, appearing only in vertebrates around 500 million years ago. But what an innovation it, Island! While your innate immune system relies on recognizing general patterns of danger, your adaptive system can learn to recognize virtually any specific threat and remember that recognition for years, decades, or even your entire lifetime. The stars of this system are two types of white blood cells called lymphocytes, B cells and T cells. Think of them as the scholars and artists of your immune system. B cells are like highly specialized craftspeople who can design and manufacture custom tools for any job. T cells are like coordinators and quality control inspectors who can direct immune responses and make sure your own cells haven't been compromised. Together, they form an educational network that's constantly learning, teaching, and remembering. B cells begin life in your bone marrow, where they undergo one of the most remarkable processes in biology. Through a kind of genetic shuffling called VDJ recombination, each developing B cell randomly rearranges segments of its DNA to create a unique receptor. The mathematics of this process are staggering. Your immune system can theoretically generate over 10 billion different B cell receptors, each capable of recognizing a different molecular shape. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Most of these randomly generated receptors will never encounter anything useful to bind to. They're like keys randomly cut in hopes that somewhere there's a lock they might fit. But occasionally, a B cell will encounter its perfect match, an antigen that fits its receptor like a key in a lock. When this happens, the B cell undergoes a dramatic transformation that would make any superhero movie jealous. The activated B cell begins dividing rapidly, creating an army of clones. Some of these clones become plasma cells, specialized factories that can pump out up to 2,000 antibodies per second. These antibodies are soluble versions of the B cell's original receptor, Y-shaped proteins that can travel throughout your body and bind to their specific target wherever it's found. It's like having a molecular postal service that can deliver precisely addressed packages to any location in your body. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of B cell activation is what happens to some of the clones. Instead of becoming antibody factories, they become memory B cells, long-lived sentinels that can survive for decades, quietly patrolling your body and remembering the shape of the threat they once encountered. These memory cells are the reason you rarely get the same infection twice, and why vaccines can provide protection that lasts for years. T cells follow a similar but distinct path, beginning their journey in the bone marrow but completing their education in the thymus, a small organ located behind your breastbone. The thymus is like a military academy, where T cells learn one of the most important lessons in immunology: how to distinguish between self and non-self. This education is crucial because T cells have the power to kill, and you definitely don't want them turning that power against your own healthy cells. The thymic education process is both elegant and brutal. Developing T cells are tested against a library of self molecules. Those that react too strongly to self are eliminated immediately. It's better to sacrifice them than risk autoimmune disease later. Those that don't react to self at all are also eliminated. They wouldn't be useful for recognizing foreign antigens. Only T cells that show the right balance, able to recognize foreign molecules but tolerant of self, graduate from the thymus and enter circulation. Once mature, T cells split into several specialized subsets. Helper T cells act like immune system coordinators, secreting chemical signals called cytokines that can activate other immune cells, promote antibody production, or recruit inflammatory responses. They're like conductors of an immune orchestra, cueing different sections when their particular expertise is needed. Cytotoxic T cells, also called killer T cells, have a more direct approach. They specialize in finding and eliminating your own cells that have become infected with viruses or transformed into cancer cells. They can inject targeted toxins that cause infected cells to die in a controlled manner, preventing the spread of infection without causing unnecessary inflammation. It's precision medicine at the cellular level. Then there are regulatory T cells, the peacekeepers of the immune system. Their job is to prevent immune responses from getting out of hand and to help resolve inflammation once a threat has been eliminated. They're like wise elders who know when to call off the fight and start the healing process. Without regulatory T cells, your immune system would be like a car without brakes, powerful but potentially destructive. The communication between B cells and T cells is one of the most elegant dances in biology. When a B cell encounters its specific antigen, it can't immediately transform into an antibody factory. First, it needs permission from helper T cells that have recognized the same threat. This requirement for multiple confirmations helps prevent false alarms and ensures that major immune responses are only launched against genuine threats. During sleep, your adaptive immune system undergoes particularly important changes. Growth hormone levels rise, promoting the development and maturation of T cells. The migration patterns of lymphocytes shift, allowing them to move more freely between tissues and lymph nodes. Memory consolidation occurs not just in your brain but throughout your immune system, as newly formed memory cells are refined and integrated into your body's long-term defense network. Sleep deprivation has profound effects on adaptive immunity. Studies have shown that people who don't get adequate sleep produce fewer antibodies in response to vaccines, and their memory B and T cell responses are significantly impaired. It's as if the immune system's learning capacity is directly tied to the brain's learning capacity, both requiring adequate rest to consolidate new information effectively. The memory aspect of adaptive immunity is perhaps its most remarkable feature. Your immune system maintains detailed records of every pathogen you've ever encountered, stored in the form of memory B and T cells that can be reactivated years or decades later. These cells don't just remember the original threat, they can recognize variants and related pathogens, providing what immunologists call cross-reactive protection. This memory system is also incredibly specific. Your immune system can distinguish between two viruses that are 99% identical, focusing its response on the tiny differences that matter. It's like having a security system that can tell identical twins apart by the way they walk or recognize a familiar voice, even through static on a phone line. The adaptive immune system also demonstrates remarkable plasticity, the ability to adjust its responses based on the context and outcome of previous encounters. If a particular type of response worked well against a pathogen, memory cells will bias future responses in that direction. If a response caused excessive inflammation or tissue damage, regulatory mechanisms will work to prevent similar overreactions in the future. What makes this system so powerful is its combination of diversity, specificity, and memory. Your adaptive immune system can potentially recognize any molecular structure that evolution might throw at it, respond with precision that targets only the threat, and remember the encounter to provide faster and stronger protection in the future. It's learning and memory applied to the fundamental challenge of survival. As you settle into sleep tonight, these cellular scholars and guardians will continue their quiet work, processing the day's encounters and strengthening the memories that will protect you tomorrow. But all of this sophisticated activity depends on a vast network of highways and meeting places that connects every corner of your body, a circulatory system dedicated entirely to immune function. In our next chapter, we'll explore the lymphatic system, the rivers of protection that carry these remarkable cells wherever they need to go. Picture this. Right now, as you lie comfortably in bed, there's a vast network of translucent vessels quietly moving precious cargo throughout your body. This isn't your blood circulation, though it runs parallel to it like a shadow highway system. These are your lymphatic vessels, carrying a colorless fluid called lymph that contains immune cells, nutrients, and cellular waste. Think of it as your body's secondary circulatory system, one that's dedicated entirely to maintenance, communication, and defense. This is the lymphatic system, and during sleep, it becomes one of the most active networks in your body. The lymphatic system is often called the forgotten circulation, overshadowed by the more dramatic pumping of your heart and the rush of blood through your arteries. But this quiet network is just as essential to your health, perhaps even more so when it comes to immune function. Unlike your cardiovascular system, which forms a closed loop, the lymphatic system is more like a drainage network, collecting fluid that seeps out of your blood vessels and returning it to your circulation while filtering out waste and potential threats along the way. Every day, about 3 to 4 liters of fluid leak out of your blood vessels into the spaces between your cells. This might sound like a plumbing problem, but it's actually a carefully designed feature. This leaked fluid, now called lymph, bathes your tissues in nutrients and provides a medium for immune cells to patrol. Without the lymphatic system to collect and return this fluid, you would swell up like a balloon within hours. More importantly, this fluid carries with it a constant stream of information about what's happening in your tissues. The lymphatic vessels that collect this fluid are marvels of biological engineering. The smallest ones, called lymphatic capillaries, have walls so thin they're only a single cell thick, with overlapping edges that act like one-way valves. When tissue pressure builds up, these valves open to let lymph in. When pressure drops, they close to prevent backflow. It's like having millions of tiny check valves throughout your body, all working together to ensure lymph flows in the right direction. As lymph moves through progressively larger vessels, it passes through lymph nodes, small bean-shaped structures that serve as combination rest stops, inspection stations, and meeting halls for your immune system. You have somewhere between 600 and 700 lymph nodes scattered throughout your body, with clusters in your neck, armpits, groin, chest, and abdomen. Each one is a bustling hub of immune activity, packed with B cells, T cells, macrophages, and other immune cells. When lymph enters a lymph node, it's like water flowing through a sophisticated filtration system. The lymph is forced to percolate slowly through a maze of chambers lined with macrophages that act as quality control inspectors, sampling everything that passes by. If they find cellular debris, they clean it up. If they encounter pathogens, they sound the alarm and begin the process of activating other immune cells. It's biological recycling and security screening happening simultaneously. The architecture of lymph nodes is designed to maximize encounters between immune cells and potential antigens, B cells and T cells are organized in specific zones that promote the right kinds of interactions. When a B cell in a lymph node encounters its matching antigen, it can quickly find the helper T cells it needs for activation. When activated T cells need to proliferate, they have space to divide and differentiate. It's like having a perfectly designed conference center where every meeting that needs to happen, happens. During sleep, lymph node activity intensifies dramatically. Growth hormone levels rise, promoting the proliferation of immune cells. The sympathetic nervous system activity decreases, allowing lymphatic vessels to dilate and lymph flow to increase. This is when your immune system does much of its learning and memory consolidation, processing the day's encounters and strengthening the cellular networks that will protect you in the future. The spleen, often overlooked as just another organ, is actually a giant lymph node with some special capabilities. Located in your upper left abdomen, the spleen filters your blood the way lymph nodes filter lymph. It's packed with macrophages that can remove old, damaged red blood cells and recycle their components. It also serves as a reservoir for immune cells, particularly monocytes, that can be rapidly deployed to sites of infection or injury. What makes the spleen particularly interesting is its role in immune memory. It's one of the primary sites where memory B cells reside, ready to spring into action if they encounter their specific antigen again. The spleen also produces antibodies and can mount rapid immune responses to blood-borne pathogens. During severe infections, the spleen can actually enlarge as it ramps up immune cell production and activity. The thymus, though it shrinks as you age, remains an important part of the lymphatic system throughout life. Located behind your breastbone, the thymus is where T cells complete their education and learn to distinguish between self and non-self. Even in adulthood, when the thymus is much smaller than it was in childhood, it continues to produce some new T cells and helps maintain the diversity of your T cell population. One of the most remarkable discoveries in recent years has been the role of the lymphatic system in brain health, particularly during sleep. For decades, scientists believed the brain had no lymphatic vessels, but we now know there's a specialized drainage system called the glymphatic system that becomes particularly active during sleep. This system uses the brain's blood vessels and cerebrospinal fluid to flush out metabolic waste, including proteins associated with neurodegenerative diseases. During sleep, your brain cells actually shrink, creating more space for cerebrospinal fluid to flow through and wash away accumulated toxins. This process is driven by the same mechanisms that govern lymphatic drainage in the rest of your body, highlighting the deep connection between sleep and immune function. Poor sleep doesn't just make you tired, it impairs your body's ability to clean house at the cellular level. The lymphatic system also plays a crucial role in fat absorption and transport. The lymphatic vessels in your intestines, called lacteals, absorb fat-soluble vitamins and dietary fats that are too large to enter the blood circulation directly. These nutrients travel through the lymphatic system before eventually entering your bloodstream. This means the lymphatic system is not just about immune function, it's also essential for nutrition and metabolism. Perhaps most importantly, the lymphatic system serves as the internet of your immune system, allowing rapid communication between distant parts of your body. A threat encountered in your toe can be communicated to lymph nodes in your groin within hours. Memory cells educated in one part of your body can travel through lymphatic vessels to provide protection everywhere. It's a biological information superhighway that keeps your entire immune system coordinated and informed. The gentle flow of lymph is driven not by a central pump like your heart, but by the movement of your muscles, the pulsation of nearby arteries, and the rhythmic contractions of the lymphatic vessels themselves. This means that physical activity and even gentle movement during the day help keep your lymphatic system flowing efficiently. Conversely, prolonged inactivity can lead to lymphatic stagnation, which may contribute to swelling and reduced immune function. As you prepare for sleep tonight, your lymphatic system is preparing for its busiest shift. Lymph flow will increase, lymph nodes will buzz with activity, and the lymphatic system in your brain will begin its nightly cleaning routine. This invisible network of vessels and nodes will work tirelessly while you rest, ensuring that tomorrow you wake up with a cleaner, more prepared, and more resilient immune system. But when this elegant system occasionally encounters threats that require a more dramatic response, your body has another tool at its disposal, one that can transform the very landscape of your tissues to focus healing power where it's needed most. Think about the last time you got a small cut on your finger. Within minutes, the area around the wound became red, warm, and slightly swollen. You might have dismissed this as just part of healing, but what you witnessed was one of the most ancient and sophisticated defense mechanisms in biology. This is inflammation, and despite its reputation as something to avoid or suppress, it's actually your body's carefully orchestrated response to injury and infection. Inflammation is healing in action, a biological fire that burns away threats and creates the perfect conditions for repair. The word inflammation comes from the Latin word meaning to set on fire, which is remarkably appropriate. When your tissues detect damage or invasion, they literally ignite a controlled biological fire that transforms the local environment. This isn't destruction for its own sake. It's purposeful remodeling that prioritizes healing over comfort. Your body is willing to sacrifice short-term peace for long-term protection and repair. The classical signs of inflammation have been recognized for over 2,000 years: heat, redness, swelling, and pain. Each of these symptoms serves a specific purpose in the healing process. The heat and redness come from increased blood flow to the affected area, delivering more immune cells, nutrients, and oxygen to fight infection and support repair. It's like rush hour traffic, except instead of commuters, you have white blood cells racing to respond to an emergency. The swelling occurs because blood vessels become more permeable, allowing fluid and immune cells to leak out into the tissues. This might seem counterproductive, but it's actually brilliant strategy. The extra fluid dilutes any toxins or harmful substances that might be present, while also providing a medium for immune cells to move around more easily. Think of it as flooding a battlefield to wash away obstacles and give your troops better mobility. Pain, while unpleasant, serves as an important warning system that encourages you to protect the injured area. It's your body's way of saying, "Be careful with this part," while we're working on repairs. The pain also triggers behavioral changes that promote healing, like resting the injured area and seeking safety. In the context of sleep, pain can actually promote deeper rest in uninjured parts of the body, focusing energy on the healing process. The inflammatory response begins within seconds of tissue damage or pathogen detection. Specialized cells called mast cells, which are stationed throughout your tissues like sentries, release chemical signals that set the whole process in motion. These signals include histamine, which causes blood vessels to dilate and become leaky, and various cytokines that call immune cells to action. It's like pulling a fire alarm that automatically summons the fire department, the paramedics, and the repair crews all at once. What makes inflammation so effective is its ability to create a hostile environment for pathogens while supporting your own cells. The increased temperature makes it harder for bacteria and viruses to reproduce, while the flood of immune cells and antimicrobial substances creates a chemical battlefield that few invaders can survive. Meanwhile, your own cells are supported by increased nutrient delivery and growth factors that promote repair and regeneration. During sleep, your body's inflammatory responses become more coordinated and efficient. Cortisol levels drop, allowing inflammatory processes to proceed without excessive suppression. Growth hormone increases, promoting tissue repair and the resolution of inflammation. Sleep also enhances the production of anti-inflammatory cytokines, the chemical signals that help calm inflammation once its job is done. This is why you often feel better after a good night's sleep when you're fighting an infection. The resolution of inflammation is just as important as its initiation. Once the threat has been eliminated and repairs are underway, your body begins producing specialized molecules called resolvins and protectins that actively shut down the inflammatory response. These aren't just the absence of inflammatory signals, they're positive signals that promote healing, clear away cellular debris, and restore normal tissue function. It's like having a dedicated cleanup crew that not only removes the wreckage but also rebuilds what was damaged. Acute inflammation, the kind that occurs in response to injury or infection, is generally beneficial and necessary for health. It's a short-term response that accomplishes its goals and then resolves. However, chronic inflammation is a different story. When inflammatory responses persist for weeks, months, or years, they can contribute to tissue damage and various diseases. This happens when the inflammatory response fails to resolve properly, or when it's triggered by ongoing irritants that can't be easily eliminated. Sleep plays a crucial role in preventing chronic inflammation. People who consistently get adequate quality sleep have lower levels of inflammatory markers in their blood. Conversely, sleep deprivation leads to increased production of inflammatory cytokines and reduced production of anti-inflammatory molecules. It's as if sleep deprivation keeps your body's fire department on constant high alert, ready to respond to threats that may not actually exist. The inflammatory response also involves fascinating changes in metabolism. Inflamed tissues shift from normal energy production to a more rapid, less efficient process that can function in low oxygen conditions. This metabolic shift prioritizes immediate energy availability over efficiency, ensuring that immune cells have the fuel they need to function even in damaged or oxygen-poor environments. It's like switching from a fuel-efficient engine to a powerful but gas-guzzling motor when you need maximum performance. Temperature regulation during inflammation is particularly sophisticated. While the affected area becomes warm due to increased blood flow, your body also raises its overall temperature through fever. This systemic response enhances immune function throughout your body, not just at the site of injury or infection. Fever creates an environment that's hostile to many pathogens while optimizing the function of your immune cells. It's a whole-body upgrade to combat mode. The inflammatory response is also highly adaptive, able to adjust its intensity and duration based on the type and severity of the threat. A small cut triggers a mild, brief inflammatory response that resolves quickly. A serious infection triggers a more intense response that persists until the threat is eliminated. The immune system has molecular sensors that can distinguish between different types of damage and pathogens, allowing it to tailor its response appropriately. Perhaps most remarkably, inflammation can promote not just healing but actual improvement over the original state. The process of breaking down damaged tissues and rebuilding them often results in structures that are stronger and more resilient than before. This is why bone fractures often heal to be stronger at the break site, and why muscles grow larger and stronger after the controlled inflammation of exercise. Inflammation isn't just about returning to normal, it's about adapting and improving. The connection between inflammation and sleep extends beyond just immune function. inflammatory cytokines can directly influence sleep patterns, promoting the deep, restorative sleep that's most beneficial for healing. However, excessive or prolonged inflammation can disrupt sleep, creating a cycle where poor sleep leads to more inflammation, which leads to worse sleep. Understanding this connection helps explain why managing inflammation through lifestyle factors like diet, exercise, and stress reduction can improve both immune function and sleep quality. Modern research has revealed that inflammation is not just a local response, but a coordinated effort involving the entire body, including the brain. The brain can detect inflammatory signals from peripheral tissues and adjust behavior, mood, and physiological responses to support healing. This is why you feel tired and want to rest when you're fighting an infection. Your brain is actively promoting the behaviors that will best support your immune system's efforts. As you settle into sleep tonight, any ongoing inflammatory processes in your body will shift into their most productive phase, guided by the natural rhythms that optimize healing and repair. But inflammation is just one tool in your immune system's arsenal, and tomorrow we'll explore another crucial component: the remarkable molecular weapons called antibodies that can seek out and neutralize specific threats with precision that would make any guided missile envious. Imagine a molecular locksmith who can create a perfectly fitting key for any lock in existence, even locks that have never been seen before. This locksmith works with such precision that the key will fit only its intended lock and no other, distinguishing between structures that differ by just a few atoms. This is essentially what your B cells do when they produce antibodies, and it's one of the most elegant solutions to the problem of specific recognition that evolution has ever devised. Antibodies are Y-shaped proteins that serve as your immune system's guided missiles. Each antibody is custom designed to recognize and bind to a specific target called an antigen. The word antigen literally means antibody generator, which tells you something about how fundamental this relationship is to immune function. When an antibody finds its matching antigen, it locks onto it with a precision that would make any engineer weep with envy. The structure of an antibody is a masterpiece of biological architecture. The Y shape isn't arbitrary, it's perfectly designed for its function. The two arms of the Y contain the antigen binding sites, regions that are incredibly variable and can be customized to recognize virtually any molecular shape. The stem of the Y is more constant and serves as the business end of the molecule, the part that tells other immune cells what to do once a target has been found. Each antibody binding site is formed by the coming together of two protein chains, creating a pocket or groove that's complementary to a specific part of an antigen. This binding is incredibly specific. An antibody that recognizes one strain of flu virus may not recognize a closely related strain that differs by just a few amino acids. It's like having a key that works perfectly in one lock but won't even fit into a nearly identical lock from the same manufacturer. The process of antibody production begins when a B cell encounters its matching antigen. This encounter is like a molecular handshake that changes everything for that B cell. With help from T cells, the activated B cell begins to divide rapidly, creating a clone army of identical cells. Most of these clones differentiate into plasma cells, specialized antibody factories that exist for one purpose: to pump out as many antibodies as possible in the shortest time. A single plasma cell can produce up to 2,000 antibodies per second, working around the clock until it literally exhausts itself and dies. These cells are like biological assembly lines running at maximum capacity, converting raw materials into finished products with incredible efficiency. During an active immune response, your bone marrow can be filled with these cellular factories, all working together to flood your system with the specific antibodies needed to combat a particular threat. Different types of antibodies serve different functions in your immune defense. Immunoglobulin G, or IgG, is the most common antibody in your blood and provides long-term protection against viruses and bacteria. Immunoglobulin A, or IgA, is specialized for mucosal surfaces like your respiratory and digestive tracts, where it can prevent pathogens from gaining a foothold. Immunoglobulin E, or IgE, is involved in allergic reactions and defense against parasites. During sleep, antibody production follows fascinating circadian rhythms that optimize immune function. Growth hormone peaks during deep sleep promote the proliferation of B cells and plasma cells. The migration patterns of these cells change during sleep, allowing them to move more freely between tissues and concentrate in areas where they're most needed. This is why people who get adequate sleep often show stronger antibody responses to vaccines compared to those who are sleep deprived. The specificity of antibodies extends beyond just recognizing their targets. They can also distinguish between different parts of the same pathogen. Some antibodies bind to regions that are essential for the pathogen's function, effectively disabling it. Others bind to surface proteins that allow the pathogen to attach to your cells, preventing infection. Still others simply mark the pathogen for destruction by other immune cells, like putting a "kick me" sign on the back of a troublemaker. One of the most remarkable aspects of antibody function is their ability to provide what immunologists call neutralization. When antibodies bind to critical sites on viruses or bacteria, they can prevent these pathogens from functioning normally. A virus coated with antibodies may be unable to attach to and infect your cells. A bacterium covered in antibodies may be unable to absorb nutrients or reproduce. It's biological sabotage at the molecular level. Antibodies also serve as communication devices, alerting other parts of your immune system to the presence of threats. The stem region of the antibody molecule can be recognized by various immune cells, including macrophages and neutrophils. When these cells encounter antibody-coated pathogens, they know immediately that these are targets for destruction. It's like having a universal flag that says, "Enemy combatant," in a language every immune cell can read. The process of antibody maturation involves something called affinity maturation, where B cells actually improve their antibodies over time. Through a process of controlled mutation and selection, B cells can fine-tune their antibodies to bind more tightly to their targets. It's like a molecular version of practice makes perfect, where each generation of antibodies becomes more effective than the last. Memory B cells represent the ultimate expression of antibody-based protection. These long-lived cells can survive for decades, quietly patrolling your body and carrying the genetic instructions for producing high-quality antibodies against threats you've encountered before. When they encounter their specific antigen again, they can rapidly differentiate into plasma cells and flood your system with protective antibodies within hours rather than days. The mathematics of antibody diversity is truly staggering. Through the random recombination of genetic segments, your immune system can theoretically produce over 10 billion different antibodies. This means you have the potential to recognize virtually any molecular structure that exists or could exist. It's like having a library of keys that includes not just every lock currently in use, but every lock that could possibly be invented. Sleep plays a crucial role in maintaining this antibody-based protection. During deep sleep, your body produces more of the cytokines that promote B-cell activation and antibody production. The hormonal changes that occur during sleep also influence the class switching that allows B cells to produce different types of antibodies for different situations. Poor sleep can significantly impair these processes, leading to weaker antibody responses and reduced protection against infections. The longevity of antibody-mediated protection varies depending on the specific pathogen and the individual's immune system. Some antibodies provide protection for just a few months, while others can last for decades or even a lifetime. This variation reflects the complex interplay between pathogen characteristics, immune system function, and environmental factors. Understanding these patterns helps explain why some vaccines require boosters while others provide long-lasting protection. Perhaps most remarkably, your antibody system can adapt to new challenges while maintaining protection against old ones. Your immune system doesn't have to choose between remembering past threats and responding to new ones. It can do both simultaneously. This is why you can develop immunity to new pathogens without losing protection against diseases you encountered years earlier. The production and deployment of antibodies represents one of the most sophisticated targeting systems in biology, capable of recognizing virtually any threat with exquisite specificity. But antibodies are just one tool in your adaptive immune arsenal, and tomorrow we'll explore their cellular counterparts. The T cells that serve as coordinators, assassins, and peacekeepers in your body's ongoing battle to maintain health and harmony. Right now, millions of T cells are flowing through your bloodstream like microscopic intelligence agents, each one equipped with sophisticated sensors and deadly capabilities. These cells are the elite forces of your adaptive immune system, trained in specialized academies, armed with precise weapons, and capable of making life or death decisions in milliseconds. They can coordinate massive immune responses, eliminate infected cells with surgical precision, or call for peace when the battle is won. Tonight, as you sleep, these cellular specialists will become even more active, patrolling your body with heightened vigilance and enhanced effectiveness. T cells get their name from the thymus, a small organ behind your breastbone where they complete their education. Think of the thymus as an elite military academy where T cells learn the most important lesson in immunology: how to distinguish between friend and foe. This education process is both rigorous and ruthless. Of all the T cells that enter the thymus, only about 5% graduate. The rest are eliminated because they either react too strongly to your own tissues or fail to recognize foreign threats altogether. The thymic selection process involves two crucial tests. First, developing T cells must demonstrate that they can recognize self-molecules displayed on the surface of thymic cells. Those that can't are eliminated because they wouldn't be useful for immune surveillance. Second, T cells are tested against a library of self-antigens. Any T cell that reacts too strongly to these self-molecules is immediately destroyed to prevent autoimmune attacks. Only T cells that show the perfect balance of self-recognition and self-tolerance are allowed to graduate. Once they complete their education, T cells divide into several specialized subsets, each with distinct functions. Helper T cells, also called CD4 positive T cells, serve as the coordinators of immune responses. They don't directly kill pathogens or infected cells. Instead, they orchestrate the activities of other immune cells through the secretion of chemical signals called cytokines. Think of them as battlefield commanders who assess the situation and call for the appropriate reinforcements. When a helper T cell encounters its specific antigen presented by an antigen-presenting cell, it becomes activated and begins producing cytokines that can influence the behavior of nearby immune cells. Some helper T cells specialize in promoting antibody responses by activating B cells. Others focus on enhancing cellular immunity by activating macrophages and cytotoxic T cells. Still others help coordinate the inflammatory response or promote the development of memory cells. Cytotoxic T cells, also known as CD8 positive T cells or killer T cells, have a more direct approach to immune defense. These cells specialize in finding and eliminating your own cells that have become infected with viruses or transformed into cancer cells. They're like highly trained assassins who can identify compromised cells and eliminate them before they can cause further harm. The precision of their targeting is remarkable. They can kill infected cells while leaving healthy neighboring cells completely unharmed. The killing mechanism used by cytotoxic T cells is both elegant and efficient. When a cytotoxic T cell recognizes an infected cell, it forms a tight connection called an immunological synapse. Through this connection, the T cell can inject targeted toxins that cause the infected cell to undergo programmed cell death or apoptosis. This controlled death prevents the release of viral particles that could infect other cells, effectively containing the infection at its source. During sleep, T cell function undergoes significant changes that enhance immune surveillance and memory formation. Growth hormone levels rise dramatically during deep sleep, promoting T cell proliferation and differentiation. The stress hormone cortisol drops to its lowest levels, removing a brake on T cell activity. At the same time, the sympathetic nervous system activity decreases, allowing T cells to migrate more freely between tissues and lymphoid organs. Sleep also influences the distribution of T cell subsets throughout your body. During waking hours, many T cells circulate in your bloodstream, but during sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, T cells migrate out of the circulation and into tissues where they can more effectively patrol for threats. This redistribution means that your immune surveillance is actually enhanced while you sleep, not diminished as you might expect. Perhaps the most important subset of T cells for long-term health are the regulatory T cells, often called TREG. These cells serve as the peacekeepers of the immune system, preventing excessive immune responses and helping to resolve inflammation once a threat has been eliminated. Without regulatory T cells, your immune system would be like a car without brakes, powerful but potentially destructive to your own tissues. Regulatory T cells work through multiple mechanisms to maintain immune balance. They can directly suppress the activity of other T cells through cell-to-cell contact. They can secrete anti-inflammatory cytokines that calm immune responses. They can compete with other T cells for essential growth factors, effectively starving overactive immune cells. Most importantly, they help establish and maintain immune tolerance, the critical ability to avoid attacking your own healthy tissues. The development of T cell memory is one of the most remarkable aspects of adaptive immunity. After responding to a threat, some T cells transform into memory T cells that can survive for decades, quietly patrolling your body and remembering the molecular signature of past encounters. These memory cells can respond much more rapidly and effectively if they encounter the same threat again, often preventing illness altogether. Sleep plays a crucial role in T cell memory formation and maintenance. During sleep, the hormonal environment favors the survival and differentiation of memory T cells. The reduced stress hormone levels and increased growth hormone create optimal conditions for these long-lived guardians to establish themselves in tissues throughout your body. People who consistently get adequate sleep show stronger and more durable T cell memory responses compared to those who are chronically sleep deprived. The communication between different T cell subsets is like a sophisticated conversation conducted in the language of cytokines. Helper T cells can influence the development and function of cytotoxic T cells. Regulatory T cells can modulate the activity of helper T cells, and memory T cells can quickly mobilize all other subsets when needed. This cellular dialogue ensures that immune responses are appropriate to the threat and that they resolve properly when the danger has passed. T cells also demonstrate remarkable plasticity, the ability to change their function based on the local environment and the signals they receive. A T cell that starts as one subset can sometimes differentiate into another subset if the situation requires it. This flexibility allows your immune system to adapt its responses based on the specific characteristics of different threats and the changing needs of your tissues. The trafficking patterns of T cells throughout your body follow complex rules that ensure they're in the right place at the right time. Naive T cells, those that haven't yet encountered their specific antigen, circulate through lymphoid organs where they're most likely to encounter antigens presented by dendritic cells. Activated T cells migrate to sites of infection or inflammation where they're needed for immune responses. Memory T cells distribute themselves strategically throughout your body, with some patrolling the circulation and others taking up residence in specific tissues. Recent research has revealed that T cells in different tissues can develop specialized functions suited to their local environment. T cells in your skin develop different capabilities than those in your lungs or gut, reflecting the unique challenges and requirements of each tissue. This tissue-specific specialization adds another layer of sophistication to your immune defense, ensuring that T cell responses are optimized for local conditions. The relationship between T cells and sleep extends beyond just enhanced function during rest. T cells themselves can influence sleep patterns through the cytokines they produce. During infections activated, T cells release cytokines that promote sleepiness and enhance slow-wave sleep, the stage most important for immune function. This creates a beneficial feedback loop where infection promotes the type of sleep that best supports immune responses. As you drift towards sleep tonight, these remarkable cellular specialists will shift into their most active and effective mode, coordinating responses, eliminating threats, and forming the memories that will protect you in the future. But even these sophisticated T cells depend on a constant supply of fresh recruits, and tomorrow we'll journey to the hidden factories within your bones, where all blood cells, including T cells, begin their remarkable journey from stem cell to specialized guardian. Deep within your bones, hidden from view in spaces so small you could never imagine them, lies one of the most productive factories on Earth. Right now, as you listen to these words, this factory is working at a pace that would make any industrial engineer dizzy with envy. Every second, it produces over 2 million new blood cells. Every day, it replaces nearly your entire population of immune cells. This is your bone marrow, the birthplace of immunity, and it never stops working, even while you sleep. Most people think of bones as static structures, like the framework of a building or the chassis of a car. But your bones are living, breathing organs filled with some of the most active tissue in your body. The soft, spongy interior of your larger bones, particularly your pelvis, ribs, and spine, contains bone marrow that serves as the headquarters for blood cell production. This process, called hematopoiesis, is one of the most tightly regulated and essential functions your body performs. At the heart of this remarkable system are hematopoietic stem cells, perhaps the most versatile cells in your body. These cellular shapeshifters have the extraordinary ability to transform into any type of blood cell your body needs. Red blood cells to carry oxygen, platelets to help with clotting, and most importantly for our story, all the various types of white blood cells that make up your immune system. A single stem cell can give rise to millions of descendants, each specialized for a particular function. The decision-making process that determines what type of cell a stem cell will become is like a cellular GPS system, guided by chemical signals that reflect your body's current needs. If you're fighting an infection, Signals will promote the production of neutrophils and other infection-fighting cells. If you're recovering from an injury, the emphasis might shift towards cells that promote healing and tissue repair. If you're well rested and healthy, production follows a steady maintenance schedule that keeps all cell types in optimal balance. During sleep, bone marrow activity follows fascinating patterns that optimize immune cell production. Growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep, acts as a powerful stimulator of stem cell division and differentiation. At the same time, cortisol levels drop to their lowest point, removing a brake on immune cell development. This hormonal environment during sleep creates ideal conditions for replenishing your immune system with fresh, vigorous cells. The bone marrow environment is carefully engineered to support stem cell function. Specialized support cells create microenvironments called niches that provide the right combination of nutrients, growth factors, and physical support. These niches are like carefully tended gardens where stem cells can thrive and make the crucial decisions about their future. Some niches promote stem cell self-renewal, ensuring a constant supply of these precious cells. Others encourage differentiation into specific cell types based on current needs. The speed of blood cell production in your bone marrow is truly staggering. Your body produces about 100 billion white blood cells every day, roughly equivalent to the number of stars in a typical galaxy. Most of these cells have relatively short lifespans, ranging from hours to weeks, which means this production must be continuous and perfectly coordinated. It's like running a factory that produces its entire annual output every few days, without ever stopping for maintenance or retooling. Different types of immune cells follow different developmental pathways within the bone marrow. B cells complete their entire basic education here, learning to produce their unique antibodies and undergoing quality control checks to ensure they won't attack your own tissues. T cells begin their development in the bone marrow, but then migrate to the thymus to complete their specialized training. Neutrophils, macrophages, and other innate immune cells mature completely in the bone marrow before entering circulation. The bone marrow also serves as a reservoir for mature immune cells, storing them until they're needed. During infections or other immune challenges, the bone marrow can rapidly release these stored cells into circulation, providing a quick boost to your immune defenses. It's like having a strategic reserve that can be mobilized at a moment's notice when the situation demands it. Sleep deprivation has profound effects on bone marrow function and immune cell production. People who consistently get inadequate sleep show reduced numbers of immune cells in their circulation, reflecting impaired bone marrow output. The hormonal disruptions associated with poor sleep, particularly elevated cortisol and reduced growth hormone, directly interfere with the signals that promote immune cell development. This is one reason why chronic sleep deprivation increases susceptibility to infections. The bone marrow's ability to respond to changing demands is one of its most remarkable features. During infections, production can increase dramatically, sometimes by tenfold or more, to meet the increased demand for immune cells. This emergency response is coordinated by cytokines and other signals from the sites of infection that travel through the bloodstream to the bone marrow. It's like having a factory that can instantly retool and ramp up production when orders suddenly increase. Age affects bone marrow function in important ways. As you get older, the cellularity of your bone marrow gradually decreases, and some of the active marrow is replaced by fat. This change, called marrow adiposity, reduces the overall capacity for blood cell production and may contribute to age-related declines in immune function. However, regular exercise and adequate sleep can help maintain bone marrow health and immune cell production throughout life. The bone marrow also demonstrates remarkable regenerative capacity. After chemotherapy, radiation, or other treatments that damage bone marrow, stem cells can rebuild the entire blood-forming system from scratch. This resilience reflects the fundamental importance of blood cell production to survival. Your body prioritizes the maintenance and recovery of this system above almost everything else, recognizing that without functioning bone marrow, life cannot continue. Recent research has revealed that bone marrow function follows circadian rhythms that coordinate with other biological processes. The release of mature immune cells from bone marrow peaks at certain times of day, ensuring that fresh immune cells are available when they're most likely to be needed. These rhythms are synchronized with sleep-wake cycles, highlighting once again the deep connection between sleep and immune function. The bone marrow microenvironment is also home to mesenchymal stem cells, which can differentiate into bone, cartilage, and fat cells, as well as the support cells that maintain the hematopoietic niches. These cells contribute to bone remodeling and repair, creating another layer of regenerative capacity within your bones. The interaction between hematopoietic and mesenchymal stem cells helps coordinate blood cell production with the maintenance of the bone marrow environment itself. Nutrition plays a crucial role in supporting bone marrow function. The rapid cell division that occurs during hematopoiesis requires abundant supplies of nutrients like folate, vitamin B12, iron, and protein. Deficiencies in these nutrients can quickly impair immune cell production, leading to reduced immune function. This is why maintaining a balanced diet is so important for immune health, particularly during times of stress or illness, when immune cell turnover is increased. The bone marrow's location within bones also provides protection from external damage while allowing for the efficient distribution of newly produced cells into circulation. The hard outer shell of bone protects this vital tissue from physical trauma, while the rich blood supply within bones ensures that new cells can quickly enter the circulation and travel to wherever they're needed throughout your body. Perhaps most remarkably, your bone marrow can sense and respond to threats before you're even aware of them. Pathogen-associated molecular patterns detected by immune cells in peripheral tissues can send signals back to the bone marrow, triggering increased production of the specific cell types needed to combat the threat. This anticipatory response helps ensure that reinforcements are already on the way before the battle intensifies. As you prepare for sleep tonight, your bone marrow will shift into its most productive phase, guided by the hormonal changes that accompany rest and restoration. Fresh immune cells will be born, educated, and prepared for deployment, ensuring that tomorrow you wake with a renewed and strengthened immune system. But the story of immunity doesn't end with cell production, and in our next chapter, we'll explore how modern medicine has learned to educate your immune system safely and effectively through one of the greatest public health achievements in human history. Imagine teaching your immune system about a dangerous enemy without ever putting you at risk. Picture introducing your B cells and T cells to a threat in such a safe, controlled way that they can learn to recognize and remember it perfectly, building defenses that could protect you for decades. This isn't science fiction, it's vaccination, one of the most elegant applications of immunological knowledge ever developed. Vaccines work by harnessing your immune system's natural ability to learn and remember, creating protection that's often stronger and longer lasting than what you'd get from the actual disease. The concept behind vaccination is beautifully simple. Show your immune system a harmless version of a pathogen or a piece of one, and let your adaptive immune system do what it does best: learn and remember. The vaccine might contain killed or weakened versions of viruses or bacteria, purified proteins from pathogens, or even just genetic instructions for your cells to make those proteins temporarily. Regardless of the approach, the goal is the same: to trigger immune memory without causing illness. When you receive a vaccine, several remarkable things happen in sequence. First, antigen-presenting cells in your tissues capture the vaccine components and transport them to nearby lymph nodes. There, they display these foreign proteins to naive T cells and B cells, essentially introducing them to this new potential threat. This introduction happens in the safe, controlled environment of the lymph node, where immune cells can interact and learn without the chaos and tissue damage that would occur during an actual infection. The process of immune activation following vaccination mirrors what happens during natural infection, but under much more favorable conditions. B cells that recognize vaccine antigens begin to proliferate and differentiate, some becoming plasma cells that produce antibodies specific to the vaccine components. T cells become activated and differentiate into helper cells that coordinate the response, and cytotoxic cells that could eliminate infected cells if needed. Most importantly, both B and T memory cells are formed. Sleep plays a crucial role in vaccine effectiveness, something that has profound implications for when and how vaccines should be administered. Studies have consistently shown that people who get adequate sleep in the days following vaccination develop stronger and more durable immune responses. The hormonal environment during sleep, particularly the rise in growth hormone and the fall in cortisol, creates optimal conditions for immune cell proliferation and memory formation. The timing of sleep relative to vaccination can significantly impact the immune response. People who are well rested before vaccination and who get good quality sleep afterward show better antibody production and longer lasting protection. Conversely, those who are sleep deprived around the time of vaccination may develop weaker immune responses that fade more quickly. This connection between sleep and vaccine effectiveness highlights once again how fundamental rest is to immune function. Memory cells created through vaccination represent one of the most remarkable achievements of adaptive immunity. These cellular guardians can survive for decades, quietly patrolling your body and maintaining the ability to recognize their specific antigen. When they encounter that antigen again, whether from a vaccine booster or an actual exposure to the pathogen, they can rapidly mobilize a response that's faster and stronger than the original immune reaction. The speed of memory responses is truly impressive. While a primary immune response to a new antigen typically takes 7 to 10 days to reach peak effectiveness, a memory response can achieve protective levels within 24 to 48 hours. This rapid response often prevents illness altogether or significantly reduces its severity. It's like having a fire department that not only remembers where your house is, but also arrives with the right equipment before the fire has a chance to spread. Different vaccines create memory that lasts for different periods, reflecting the complex interplay between the specific pathogen, the type of vaccine, and individual immune system characteristics. Some vaccines, like those for measles or yellow fever, can provide protection that lasts for decades or even a lifetime after just 1 or 2 doses. Others, like influenza vaccines, need to be updated and re-administered annually because the virus changes rapidly and because immune memory to flu viruses naturally wanes over time. The concept of herd immunity demonstrates how individual immune memory can benefit entire communities. When a high percentage of people in a population have immune memory against a particular pathogen, either through vaccination or previous infection, the pathogen has difficulty spreading even to those who aren't immune. This community-level protection is particularly important for protecting people who can't be vaccinated due to medical conditions or who don't respond well to vaccines. Modern vaccine development has become increasingly sophisticated, using detailed knowledge of immune system function to create more effective and targeted vaccines. Scientists can now identify the specific parts of pathogens that are most important for generating protective immunity and focus vaccine responses on those critical targets. This approach can lead to vaccines that are not only more effective, but also cause fewer side effects. The side effects that sometimes occur after vaccination are actually signs that your immune system is responding appropriately. Mild fever, fatigue, and soreness at the injection site reflect the activation of immune cells and the inflammatory response that accompanies immune memory formation. These symptoms typically resolve within a day or two and are far milder than what would occur during actual infection with the pathogen. Sleep can influence not just the magnitude of vaccine responses, but also their quality. Well-rested individuals tend to develop more balanced immune responses with appropriate levels of different antibody types and T-cell subsets. Sleep-deprived individuals may develop skewed responses that are less effective at providing protection. This balance is important because different components of the immune response protect against different aspects of infection. Recent advances in vaccine technology have led to new approaches that can stimulate even stronger and longer-lasting immune memory. These include adjuvants, substances that enhance immune responses to vaccine antigens, and novel delivery systems that can target vaccines to specific types of immune cells. Some experimental vaccines even aim to stimulate tissue-resident memory cells that provide protection at the sites where infections typically begin. The development of immune memory through vaccination also demonstrates the remarkable plasticity of the adaptive immune system. The same basic mechanisms that evolved to protect against natural infections can be co-opted to provide protection against threats that the immune system might never encounter naturally. This flexibility highlights the fundamental adaptability of biological systems and their capacity to respond to new challenges. Booster vaccinations work by reactivating existing memory cells and can also recruit new naive cells into the memory pool. Each boost not only strengthens the existing immune memory, but can also broaden it, increasing the range of variants that the immune system can recognize. This is why booster shots often provide better protection than the original vaccination series, building on the foundation of existing memory to create even stronger defenses. The interaction between vaccination and natural immunity is complex and varies depending on the specific pathogen and vaccine. In some cases, vaccination can provide better protection than natural infection because vaccines can be designed to focus immune responses on the most protective antigens while avoiding the immunosuppressive effects that some pathogens use to evade natural immune responses. Age affects vaccine responses in ways that reflect broader changes in immune function over time. Young children may need multiple doses to develop strong immunity because their immune systems are still maturing. Older adults may need higher doses or additional adjuvants because immune responses naturally decline with age. Understanding these age-related differences allows for vaccination schedules that optimize protection throughout life. The global impact of vaccination on human health cannot be overstated. Diseases that once killed or disabled millions of people annually have been eliminated or drastically reduced through vaccination programs. This success represents one of the greatest triumphs of applying scientific understanding of immune function to practical public health challenges. As you prepare for sleep tonight, any vaccine-induced memory cells in your body will continue their quiet patrol, maintaining the molecular knowledge that could protect you for years to come. But immune memory and protection represent just one side of immune function, and tomorrow we'll explore what happens when this sophisticated system occasionally makes mistakes, turning its considerable power against the very body it was designed to protect. Sometimes the most sophisticated security system in the world can make a tragic mistake. Imagine a highly trained guard who has spent years learning to distinguish between friends and enemies, suddenly becoming confused and attacking the very people they were meant to protect. This is what happens in autoimmune diseases when your immune system's remarkable ability to recognize and eliminate threats becomes misdirected toward your own healthy tissues. It's a case of mistaken identity at the molecular level, where the guardians become the aggressors. Autoimmunity affects millions of people worldwide, encompassing over 80 different conditions ranging from type 1 diabetes to rheumatoid arthritis to multiple sclerosis. Despite their diversity, all autoimmune diseases share a common thread: immune cells that have somehow lost the ability to distinguish between foreign invaders and the body's own tissues. The very specificity that makes adaptive immunity so powerful becomes a liability when it's turned against the self. The development of autoimmunity often involves a complex interplay of genetic predisposition and environmental triggers. You might inherit genes that make certain autoimmune responses more likely, but something in your environment, perhaps an infection, stress, or exposure to certain chemicals, may be needed to actually trigger the disease. It's like having a lock that can be opened by multiple keys working together, none of which would be sufficient on their own. One of the most intriguing aspects of autoimmunity is the phenomenon called molecular mimicry. Sometimes, proteins found in bacteria or viruses closely resemble proteins in your own tissues. When your immune system learns to recognize and attack the pathogen, it may also begin attacking the similar-looking self-proteins. It's like training security guards to watch for someone wearing a red jacket, only to discover that several employees also wear red jackets and are now being mistakenly detained. Sleep plays a complex role in autoimmune diseases, both as a potential contributing factor and as a casualty of immune dysfunction. Chronic sleep deprivation can disrupt the delicate balance of immune regulation, potentially increasing the risk of autoimmune responses. At the same time, many autoimmune diseases cause sleep disturbances through pain, inflammation, or medications, creating a challenging cycle where poor sleep worsens immune dysfunction, which in turn disrupts sleep further. The breakdown of immune tolerance, the mechanism that normally prevents attacks on self-tissues, can occur through several pathways. Sometimes the problem lies in central tolerance, the education process that occurs in the thymus and bone marrow where immune cells learn to recognize self. If this process is incomplete or faulty, self-reactive immune cells may escape into circulation. Other times, peripheral tolerance mechanisms that normally keep self-reactive cells in check may fail or become overwhelmed. Regulatory T cells play a crucial role in preventing autoimmunity, serving as the immune system's peacekeepers. These cells work constantly to suppress inappropriate immune responses and maintain tolerance to self-antigens. In many autoimmune diseases, regulatory T cell function is impaired, either through reduced numbers, decreased activity, or resistance by other immune cells to their suppressive signals. It's like having police officers who can't effectively control a riot because their authority isn't being recognized. The tissue damage in autoimmune diseases often results from the same mechanisms that normally protect against infections. Antibodies that bind to self-proteins can trigger complement activation and inflammation. T cells that recognize self-antigens can directly kill cells or recruit other inflammatory cells to the area. The immune system's powerful arsenal, so effective against pathogens, becomes devastatingly destructive when aimed at healthy tissues. Modern treatments for autoimmune diseases often work by modulating or suppressing immune function, but this approach requires a delicate balance. Too much suppression leaves patients vulnerable to infections and cancers, while too little allows the autoimmune process to continue. Recent advances have focused on more targeted approaches that can specifically block the immune pathways involved in autoimmunity while leaving protective immunity intact. Sleep quality often improves when autoimmune diseases are well controlled, suggesting that inflammation itself is a major contributor to sleep disturbances in these conditions. The cytokines produced during autoimmune responses can directly affect sleep centers in the brain, promoting sleepiness during the day while paradoxically disrupting nighttime sleep architecture. Managing inflammation through appropriate treatment often leads to improvements in both disease symptoms and sleep quality. The concept of immune privilege helps explain why some tissues are more susceptible to autoimmune attack than others. Certain parts of your body, like the brain and eyes, are normally isolated from most immune surveillance to prevent damage from inflammatory responses. When this privilege is broken down, perhaps through injury or infection, it can expose previously hidden self-antigens to the immune system and trigger autoimmune responses. Epigenetic factors, changes in gene expression that don't involve alterations to the DNA sequence itself, play an increasingly recognized role in autoimmunity. Environmental factors like stress, diet, and sleep patterns can influence which genes are turned on or off in immune cells, potentially contributing to the development or progression of autoimmune diseases. This suggests that lifestyle interventions might have therapeutic potential beyond conventional medical treatments. The hygiene hypothesis proposes that reduced exposure to infectious agents in early life might contribute to increased rates of autoimmune diseases in developed countries. The idea is that without appropriate challenges, the immune system may become misdirected towards self-antigens. While this hypothesis remains controversial and is likely oversimplified, it highlights the importance of proper immune system education and development in preventing autoimmunity. Stress, both physical and psychological, can significantly influence autoimmune disease activity. Chronic stress elevates cortisol levels, which can initially suppress immune function, but may lead to rebound hyperactivity when stress is relieved. Stress also affects sleep quality, creating additional challenges for immune regulation. Many people with autoimmune diseases notice that their symptoms worsen during periods of high stress, emphasizing the importance of stress management in treatment plans. The gut microbiome has emerged as a key player in autoimmune disease development and progression. The trillions of bacteria living in your intestines help train your immune system and maintain the balance between immunity and tolerance. Disruptions to this microbial community, whether through antibiotics, diet, or other factors, may contribute to autoimmune responses. This discovery has opened new avenues for treatment focused on restoring healthy microbial balance. Gender differences in autoimmune diseases are striking, with women being affected by most autoimmune conditions at much higher rates than men. Hormonal influences, particularly estrogen, appear to play a role in this disparity. The fluctuations in hormone levels that occur during puberty, pregnancy, and menopause can all influence autoimmune disease activity, highlighting the complex interactions between reproductive hormones and immune function. Recent research has revealed that autoimmune diseases often involve defects in the resolution of inflammation, the active process by which inflammatory responses are terminated and tissues return to normal. In healthy immune responses, specialized molecules called resolvins and protectins help shut down inflammation and promote healing. In autoimmune diseases, this resolution process may be impaired, leading to chronic inflammation and tissue damage. The psychological impact of autoimmune diseases extends beyond the direct effects of immune dysfunction. living with a chronic condition that's often invisible to others can be isolating and frustrating. The unpredictable nature of many autoimmune diseases, with periods of remission followed by flares, can make it difficult to plan and maintain normal activities. Sleep disturbances often compound these psychological challenges, affecting mood, cognitive function, and quality of life. Advances in understanding autoimmunity have led to the development of increasingly sophisticated treatments, biologics, medications that target specific immune pathways, can provide dramatic improvements for many patients while causing fewer side effects than traditional immunosuppressive drugs. Cell-based therapies that expand regulatory T cells or reprogram immune responses are showing promise in clinical trials, offering hope for more effective and targeted treatments in the future. The relationship between autoimmunity and sleep creates opportunities for therapeutic intervention, improving sleep quality through behavioral interventions, treatment of sleep disorders, or medications that specifically target sleep without suppressing immunity may help break the cycle of poor sleep and increased autoimmune activity. Some studies suggest that melatonin, beyond its role in regulating sleep, may have anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory effects that could benefit people with autoimmune diseases. Understanding autoimmunity has also provided insights into normal immune function and the delicate mechanisms that maintain tolerance to self. The study of what goes wrong in autoimmune diseases continues to illuminate the sophisticated control systems that usually keep immune responses appropriately directed, reminding us that the immune system's restraint is just as remarkable as its power. Tomorrow we'll explore another example of immune system confusion, one that affects millions of people worldwide and turns harmless environmental substances into perceived threats that trigger dramatic and sometimes dangerous responses. Picture this. You walk into a friend's house, and within minutes your eyes start watering, your nose begins running, and you feel an overwhelming urge to sneeze. There's nothing obviously dangerous in the environment, just a cat lounging peacefully on the sofa. Yet, your immune system has launched a full-scale emergency response as if you were under attack by a deadly pathogen. This is an allergic reaction, and it represents one of the most puzzling aspects of immune function. Why does a system designed to protect you sometimes respond so dramatically to harmless substances? Allergies affect over 25% of people worldwide, making them one of the most common immune system disorders. An allergy is essentially a case of immune overreaction, where your adaptive immune system mistakenly identifies harmless proteins from the environment as dangerous threats. These proteins, called allergens, can be found in foods, pollens, pet dander, dust mites, medications, or countless other substances that most people encounter without any problems. The development of allergies involves a specific type of immune response centered around immunoglobulin E, or IgE, antibodies. Unlike other antibody types that circulate freely in your blood, IgE antibodies have a unique behavior. They bind to the surface of immune cells called mast cells and basophils, essentially arming these cells with allergen-specific sensors. When these armed cells encounter their specific allergen, they rapidly release their contents in a process called degranulation. Mast cells are like microscopic grenades packed with inflammatory chemicals. When they degranulate, they release histamine, leukotrienes, and other mediators that cause the classic symptoms of allergic reactions. Histamine dilates blood vessels and increases their permeability, leading to swelling and redness. It also stimulates nerve endings, causing itching, and promotes mucus production, leading to runny noses and watery eyes. These are the same mechanisms your body uses to fight infections, but they're being triggered inappropriately. Sleep can significantly influence allergic symptoms and reaction. Many people with allergies notice that their symptoms are worse at certain times of day, often in the morning or evening. This variation partly reflects circadian rhythms in immune function, with some inflammatory processes naturally fluctuating throughout the day. Additionally, allergen exposure patterns change with daily activities and sleep positions, affecting symptom severity. The initial sensitization to an allergen usually occurs without any symptoms. The first time your immune system encounters a new allergen, it may begin producing IgE antibodies against it, but you won't feel anything unusual. It's only on subsequent exposures, when those antibodies are already in place and ready to react, that allergic symptoms occur. This delayed reaction pattern explains why people can suddenly develop allergies to substances they've been exposed to for years without problems. The speed of allergic reactions varies dramatically depending on the type of exposure and individual sensitivity. Some reactions, like those to airborne allergens, may develop within minutes as histamine and other mediators quickly affect nearby tissues. Other reactions, particularly those involving food allergens, may take hours to develop as the allergen is processed through the digestive system and encountered by immune cells in different parts of the body. Allergic asthma represents one of the most serious forms of allergic disease, where the airways themselves become the target of allergic inflammation. In response to inhaled allergens, the smooth muscles around the airways contract, the airway walls swell, and excess mucus is produced. This combination can severely restrict breathing and, in severe cases, can be life-threatening. The chronic inflammation associated with allergic asthma can also disrupt sleep, creating a cycle where poor sleep worsens immune regulation and potentially increases allergic sensitivity. The hygiene hypothesis suggests that reduced exposure to microorganisms in early life may contribute to increased allergy rates in developed countries. According to this theory, without appropriate microbial challenges, the developing immune system may become biased toward allergic responses. While this hypothesis helps explain some patterns in allergy prevalence, the relationship between hygiene, microbial exposure, and allergy development is complex and still being studied. Food allergies involve many of the same mechanisms as environmental allergies, but can be more dangerous because the allergen is consumed and distributed throughout the body via the bloodstream. Severe food allergies can trigger anaphylaxis, a systemic allergic reaction that can cause difficulty breathing, dangerous drops in blood pressure, and even death within minutes. The proteins that most commonly cause food allergies include those found in milk, eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, wheat, and soy. The gut microbiome plays an increasingly recognized role in allergy development and regulation. The diverse community of bacteria living in your intestines helps train your immune system and maintain the balance between appropriate immune responses and tolerance. Disruptions to this microbial community, whether through antibiotics, dietary changes, or other factors, may influence allergy risk. Some beneficial bacteria appear to promote immune tolerance, while others may favor allergic responses. Cross-reactivity can cause people to react to allergens they've never been directly exposed to. This occurs when proteins in different substances share similar structures that are recognized by the same IgE antibodies. For example, people allergic to birch pollen may also react to certain fruits like apples or cherries because they contain proteins that are similar to birch allergens. This phenomenon can make allergy management more complex and unpredictable. Sleep disruption is both a consequence and potentially a contributing factor to allergic diseases. Nighttime allergy symptoms can fragment sleep, reducing time spent in deep sleep stages that are important for immune regulation. Poor sleep quality can also increase stress hormone levels, which may worsen inflammatory responses and allergic symptoms. Creating a sleep environment that minimizes allergen exposure, such as using allergen-proof bedding and air filters, can help break this cycle. The concept of the allergic march describes how allergic diseases often progress and change throughout life. Many children with food allergies in infancy later develop environmental allergies and asthma. This progression suggests that the underlying tendency toward allergic responses can manifest in different ways as the immune system matures and encounters new environmental challenges. Understanding this progression can help guide prevention and treatment strategies. Treatment approaches for allergies range from avoidance strategies to medications that block allergic responses to immunotherapy that attempts to retrain the immune system. Antihistamines block histamine receptors, reducing symptoms like itching and swelling. Anti-inflammatory medications like corticosteroids can suppress the underlying allergic inflammation. Immunotherapy, which involves gradually exposing patients to increasing amounts of their allergens, can sometimes reduce or eliminate allergic responses over time. 7. The relationship between stress and allergies demonstrates the complex connections between psychological and immune function. Chronic stress can worsen allergic symptoms and may even contribute to the development of new allergies. Stress hormones like cortisol can initially suppress immune responses, but chronic stress can lead to dysregulation that favors allergic inflammation. Managing stress through relaxation techniques, adequate sleep, and other strategies may help reduce allergic symptoms. Seasonal patterns in allergic symptoms reflect both environmental allergen levels and changes in immune function throughout the year. Spring tree pollens, summer grass pollens, and fall weed pollens create predictable waves of allergic symptoms for sensitive individuals. However, climate change is altering these patterns, with longer pollen seasons and higher pollen concentrations affecting allergy sufferers worldwide. Recent research has revealed that allergic responses involve not just the immediate release of inflammatory mediators, but also longer-term changes in tissue structure and function. Chronic allergic inflammation can lead to tissue remodeling, where normal tissue architecture is altered in ways that can persist even after the allergic response has resolved. This remodeling may contribute to the chronic nature of some allergic diseases and their tendency to worsen over time without appropriate treatment. The evolutionary purpose of IgE antibodies and mast cells remains somewhat mysterious, since their main recognized function in modern humans is to cause allergic problems. However, these immune components likely evolved to protect against parasitic infections, particularly intestinal worms, that were common threats throughout human evolutionary history. In environments where parasites are still prevalent, allergic diseases are often less common, supporting the idea that these immune mechanisms serve important protective functions under different circumstances. Understanding allergies has provided valuable insights into immune regulation and the delicate balance between protection and tolerance. The study of allergic diseases continues to reveal new aspects of how the immune system learns to distinguish between harmless and harmful substances, and how this learning process can sometimes go awry. As you prepare for sleep tonight, especially if you're among the millions who deal with allergic symptoms, remember that managing your sleep environment and maintaining good sleep hygiene can be important components of overall allergy management. Tomorrow, we'll explore how this same powerful immune system that can overreact to harmless substances also serves as your primary defense against one of the most serious threats to human health: cancer. Every night while you sleep, quiet battle takes place inside your body. It's not fought with weapons or loud explosions, but with cellular precision and molecular recognition. Your immune system is constantly patrolling your tissues, searching for cells that have gone rogue, cells that have begun the dangerous transformation toward cancer. This process, called immune surveillance, represents one of your body's most important and least appreciated functions, the daily prevention of cancer before it can take hold. Cancer begins when normal cells accumulate genetic mutations that allow them to ignore the usual rules of cellular behavior. Instead of growing, dividing, and dying in orderly fashion, these transformed cells begin to multiply uncontrollably and evade the mechanisms that normally eliminate damaged cells. What many people don't realize is that your immune system is specifically designed to recognize and eliminate these cellular rebels before they can establish themselves as tumors. The immune surveillance process relies heavily on natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells, the specialized assassins of your immune system. These cells constantly patrol your tissues, examining other cells for signs of transformation or infection. They can detect when cells are displaying abnormal proteins on their surface, or when they've stopped displaying the normal molecular identification tags that mark them as healthy members of your cellular community. One of the most sophisticated aspects of immune surveillance involves the recognition of neoantigens, new proteins that are created when cancer cells develop mutations. These mutated proteins are essentially foreign to your immune system, even though they arise from your own cells. When immune cells encounter these neoantigens, they can mount specific responses against them, treating the cancer cells as if they were infected with a virus or bacteria. Sleep plays a crucial role in immune surveillance, with many of the processes that detect and eliminate abnormal cells becoming more active during rest. Natural killer cell activity increases during sleep, and the migration patterns of immune cells shift to allow for more thorough tissue surveillance. This may be one reason why chronic sleep deprivation is associated with increased cancer risk. Poor sleep may impair your body's ability to detect and eliminate transformed cells before they become established tumors. The concept of immunoediting describes how the immune system shapes cancer development over time. In the early stages, immune surveillance successfully eliminates most transformed cells, a process called elimination. However, some cancer cells may survive this initial screening by developing mechanisms to evade immune detection. These surviving cells enter an equilibrium phase where immune pressure keeps them in check but doesn't eliminate them completely. Eventually, some cancer cells may acquire additional mutations that allow them to escape immune control entirely. This escape phase represents the transition from immune surveillance successfully controlling abnormal cell growth to the development of clinically detectable cancer. Understanding this process has led to the development of immunotherapies that attempt to restore or enhance the immune system's ability to recognize and attack cancer cells. Tumor microenvironments often become immunosuppressive, creating local conditions that inhibit immune cell function. Cancer cells can secrete factors that recruit regulatory T cells and other immunosuppressive cells to the tumor site. They can also express proteins that act as molecular brakes on immune responses, essentially telling attacking immune cells to stand down. This immunosuppression helps explain why established tumors can grow despite the presence of a functional immune system. The relationship between inflammation and cancer is complex and bidirectional. While acute immune responses generally help eliminate transformed cells, chronic inflammation can actually promote cancer development by creating an environment rich in growth factors and by causing ongoing DNA damage through inflammatory mediators. This dual nature of inflammation highlights the importance of immune balance in cancer prevention. Modern immunotherapy approaches work by removing the brakes on immune responses or by enhancing the immune system's ability to recognize cancer cells. Checkpoint inhibitors block the molecular signals that cancer cells use to suppress immune responses. CAR T-cell therapy involves genetically modifying a patient's own T-cells to better recognize and attack their specific cancer. Cancer vaccines aim to train the immune system to recognize tumor-associated antigens. The success of immunotherapy in treating some cancers has validated the concept that the immune system can be a powerful anti-cancer force when properly directed. Patients with metastatic melanoma, lung cancer, and other previously untreatable cancers have experienced dramatic and durable responses to immunotherapy treatments. These successes have revolutionized cancer treatment and highlighted the untapped potential of immune-based approaches. Sleep disruption in cancer patients often creates a challenging cycle, where cancer-related symptoms interfere with sleep, while poor sleep may impair immune function and potentially affect treatment outcomes. Many cancer treatments, including chemotherapy and radiation, can disrupt normal sleep patterns. At the same time, maintaining good sleep quality may support immune function and help the body respond better to cancer treatments. The microbiome has emerged as an important factor in cancer immunity, with certain bacterial species appearing to enhance immune responses against tumors, while others may promote tumor growth. The composition of gut bacteria can influence how well patients respond to immunotherapy treatments, leading to research into using probiotics or fecal transplants to improve cancer treatment outcomes. This connection between microbial communities and cancer immunity adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of immune surveillance. Stress and its associated hormones can significantly impact immune surveillance of cancer cells. Chronic stress can suppress natural killer cell activity and other immune functions that are important for detecting and eliminating transformed cells. The stress hormone cortisol, while necessary for normal immune regulation, can become immunosuppressive when chronically elevated. This may help explain the observed connections between chronic stress and increased cancer risk. Age-related changes in immune function, collectively known as immunosenescence, may contribute to the increased cancer incidence seen in older adults. As the immune system ages, its surveillance capacity declines, and its ability to mount effective responses against transformed cells diminishes. However, this decline isn't inevitable, and lifestyle factors, including adequate sleep, regular exercise, and good nutrition, can help maintain immune function throughout life. The field of cancer immunology has revealed that different types of cancers interact with the immune system in distinct ways. Some cancers, called immunologically hot tumors, are heavily infiltrated with immune cells and may respond well to immunotherapy. Others, termed cold tumors, lack significant immune infiltration and may require different approaches to make them visible to the immune system. Recent research has shown that immune responses against cancer can create lasting immunological memory, similar to what occurs with infectious diseases. Patients who respond well to immunotherapy often develop memory T cells that can provide long-term protection against cancer recurrence. This immunological memory represents one of the most promising aspects of cancer immunotherapy, offering the potential for durable remissions or even cures. The timing of immune responses during cancer development appears to be critical, with early intervention generally being more effective than treatment of established tumors. This has led to increased interest in cancer prevention strategies that enhance immune surveillance, including vaccines against cancer-causing viruses and lifestyle interventions that support optimal immune function. Understanding the complex relationship between sleep and cancer immunity has practical implications for both cancer prevention and treatment. Maintaining good sleep hygiene, managing stress, and supporting overall immune health through lifestyle choices may help optimize the immune surveillance that protects against cancer development. For cancer patients, prioritizing sleep quality alongside conventional treatments may support better outcomes and quality of life. The story of immune surveillance illustrates both the remarkable power and the limitations of your immune system. While it successfully eliminates countless potentially cancerous cells throughout your lifetime, it's not infallible, and some transformed cells may eventually escape its control. However, ongoing advances in our understanding of cancer immunity continue to offer new hope for both prevention and treatment. As you settle into sleep tonight, your immune system will continue its vigilant patrol, working tirelessly to maintain the cellular order that keeps you healthy. Tomorrow, we'll explore how this same immune system that fights cancer and infection also depends on the restorative power of sleep, and how the quality of your rest directly influences your body's ability to defend and heal itself. There's a moment each night when your body makes a remarkable decision. As drowsiness washes over you and your eyes grow heavy, your immune system doesn't power down like a computer going to sleep. Instead, it shifts gears, moving into what scientists now recognize as its most important operational mode. While you drift into unconsciousness, your T cells become more mobile, your antibody production increases, and your body begins the critical work of processing the day's immune encounters and strengthening its defenses for tomorrow. The relationship between sleep and immunity is so fundamental that it's woven into the very architecture of your biological rhythms. Your immune system operates on the same 24-hour cycle as your sleep-wake pattern, with different immune functions peaking at different times of day. During sleep, your body produces more infection-fighting white blood cells, releases growth hormone that supports immune cell development, and reduces stress hormones that can suppress immune function. When you sleep, your body's production of cortisol drops to its lowest levels of the day. Cortisol is essential for normal immune regulation, but chronically elevated levels can suppress immune responses and reduce your ability to fight off infections. The natural decline in cortisol during sleep removes this brake on immune function, allowing your white blood cells to circulate more freely and respond more vigorously to potential threats. Growth hormone, which surges during the deep stages of sleep, plays a crucial role in immune function that extends far beyond its effects on physical development. This hormone stimulates the production and maturation of T cells, promotes the development of memory cells that provide long-lasting immunity, and supports the bone marrow's production of new immune cells. Without adequate deep sleep, growth hormone production suffers, and with it, your immune system's ability to renew and strengthen itself. The architecture of sleep itself appears designed to optimize immune function. During slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage of non-REM sleep, your brain cells actually shrink, creating more space for cerebrospinal fluid to flow through and wash away metabolic waste product. This glymphatic system activation during sleep helps clear inflammatory molecules and cellular debris that could otherwise interfere with immune function. Sleep deprivation has profound and measurable effects on immune function that go far beyond making you feel tired. People who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night are nearly 3 times more likely to catch a cold when exposed to a virus compared to those who sleep 8 hours or more. This isn't just correlation. Controlled studies have shown that even modest sleep restriction can reduce vaccine responses, impair wound healing, and increase susceptibility to infection. The migration patterns of immune cells change dramatically during sleep. T cells and other lymphocytes that circulate in your bloodstream during waking hours migrate into lymph nodes and other immune organs during sleep. This redistribution allows for more efficient immune surveillance and provides optimal conditions for immune cells to interact with each other and with antigens they may have encountered during the day. Memory consolidation in the immune system parallels the memory consolidation that occurs in your brain during sleep. Just as your brain strengthens important neural connections and weakens irrelevant ones during sleep, your immune system appears to strengthen memory responses to important threats, while allowing responses to harmless antigens to fade. This process helps ensure that your immune memory remains focused on genuine threats rather than becoming cluttered with unnecessary information. The circadian rhythm disruption that comes with shift work, frequent travel across time zones, or irregular sleep schedules can severely impact immune function. Night shift workers show increased rates of infections, slower wound healing, and reduced responses to vaccinations. Even mild circadian disruption, such as staying up late on weekends and sleeping in, can affect immune function for several days afterward. Sleep disorders can create particularly challenging problems for immune function. Sleep apnea, which causes repeated interruptions in breathing during sleep, triggers chronic stress responses that can suppress immunity. The fragmented sleep characteristic of sleep apnea prevents the sustained periods of deep sleep necessary for optimal immune function. Similarly, insomnia and other sleep disorders that reduce sleep quality or duration can leave the immune system operating at reduced capacity. The relationship between sleep and inflammation is complex and bidirectional. Poor sleep can increase inflammatory markers in your blood, while excessive inflammation can disrupt sleep. This creates potential cycles where sleep problems lead to increased inflammation, which further disrupts sleep. Breaking these cycles often requires addressing both sleep quality and the underlying sources of inflammation. Melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle, also has important immune functions beyond its role in promoting sleepiness. Melatonin has antioxidant properties that help protect immune cells from damage, and it can modulate immune responses in ways that may help prevent both excessive inflammation and immune suppression. The natural decline in melatonin production with age may contribute to age-related changes in both sleep quality and immune function. Stress hormones create a particularly interesting interaction with sleep and immunity. While acute stress can temporarily enhance some immune functions, chronic stress leads to persistently elevated cortisol levels that can suppress immune responses. Poor sleep often increases stress hormone production. While stress can make it difficult to fall asleep or stay asleep, creating a cycle that can be difficult to break without addressing both sleep and stress management. The timing of sleep appears to be almost as important as the duration. People who maintain consistent sleep schedules, going to bed and waking up at similar times each day, show more robust immune function than those with irregular schedules, even when total sleep time is the same. This suggests that the predictability of sleep timing helps optimize the circadian regulation of immune function. Recovery sleep, the extra sleep you get after a period of sleep deprivation, can partially restore immune function, but it may not completely compensate for the immune suppression that occurs during sleep loss. This suggests that consistency in sleep habits is more beneficial than trying to make up for lost sleep on weekends. However, when you do experience sleep loss, prioritizing recovery sleep can help minimize the immune consequences. Sleep quality may be even more important than sleep quantity for immune function. Studies have shown that people who spend a higher percentage of their time in bed actually asleep, a measure called sleep efficiency, have better immune responses than those who lie awake for long periods, even if their total time in bed is adequate. This highlights the importance of not just getting enough time for sleep, but ensuring that time is spent in actual restorative sleep. The immune benefits of good sleep extend beyond protection from infections. Adequate sleep supports the immune surveillance that helps prevent cancer, enhances wound healing, improves responses to vaccinations, and may even slow the aging of the immune system. These benefits make sleep one of the most important and accessible interventions for supporting immune health throughout life. Individual differences in sleep needs and immune function mean that optimal sleep duration and timing can vary from person to person. However, most adults benefit from 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, with consistent bedtimes and wake times that align with their natural circadian preferences. Creating sleep environments that are cool, dark, and quiet can help optimize sleep quality and, by extension, immune function. The relationship between sleep and immunity also highlights the interconnected nature of health, where improvements in one area often lead to benefits in others. Better sleep can enhance immune function, which can reduce inflammation and improve overall health, which in turn can make it easier to maintain good sleep habits. Understanding these connections can help motivate the lifestyle changes that support both better sleep and stronger immunity. As you prepare for sleep tonight, remember that you're not just resting your mind and body. You're providing your immune system with the time and conditions it needs to strengthen, repair, and prepare for tomorrow's challenges. In our final chapter, we'll step back to appreciate the remarkable wisdom of this ancient system that protects you, and consider how understanding your immune system can deepen your appreciation for the intricate biology that sustains your life. As our journey through the landscape of immunity draws to a close, take a moment to consider what has been happening inside you throughout this entire conversation. While you've been listening to words about T cells and antibodies, those very cells have been flowing through your bloodstream, patrolling your tissues, and quietly maintaining the biological peace that allows you to exist in a world filled with potential threats. Your immune system is not just a topic we've been exploring, it's the living foundation that makes exploration itself possible. The immune system represents one of evolution's most remarkable achievements, a solution to the fundamental challenge that has faced every living organism for billions of years. How to distinguish self from non-self, how to defend against threats while preserving the delicate structures that sustain life. What we've discovered together is that this system is not just a collection of cells and molecules, but an integrated network of exquisite complexity and beauty. Consider the mathematical precision involved in your immune function. Your body can potentially recognize over 10 billion different molecular patterns through the random recombination of just a few hundred gene segments. Every day, your bone marrow produces roughly 100 billion new immune cells, each one precisely calibrated for its specific role. The probability that all of this coordination happens by chance is essentially zero. It represents the culmination of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Yet for all its sophistication, your immune system maintains a profound humility. It operates almost entirely below the threshold of consciousness, asking nothing from you except the basic conditions it needs to function: adequate sleep, reasonable nutrition, manageable stress, and time for rest and recovery. It doesn't demand your attention or praise, it simply works day and night with a reliability that would be the envy of any human-designed system. The relationship between your immune system and sleep that we've explored throughout these chapters reveals something deeper about the interconnected nature of biological systems. Your immunity doesn't function in isolation. It's woven into the fabric of your circadian rhythms, your stress responses, your hormonal cycles, and your sleep architecture. This integration means that caring for your immune system is really about caring for your whole self. Sleep emerges from our exploration not just as a time of rest, but as a period of active immune renewal and optimization. The growth hormone surges that occur during deep sleep, the migration of immune cells that happens during rest, the memory consolidation that strengthens immune recognition. All of these processes highlight sleep as an essential component of immune health. When you prioritize good sleep, you're not just helping yourself feel better, you're supporting one of your body's most critical functions. The immune system also teaches us about balance and restraint. The same T cells that can eliminate cancer cells must learn not to attack healthy tissues. The inflammatory responses that help fight infections must know when to resolve and restore normal tissue function. The antibodies that provide protection against pathogens must avoid creating allergic reactions to harmless substances. This delicate balance between protection and tolerance reflects a wisdom that extends far beyond biology. Modern immunology has revealed that many diseases, once thought to be unrelated to immune function, actually involve immune dysfunction or dysregulation. Heart disease, diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders, and even some psychiatric conditions involve inflammatory processes or immune system abnormalities. This expanding understanding of immunity's role in health emphasizes how central these cellular guardians are to virtually every aspect of your well-being. The story of vaccination that we explored earlier represents one of humanity's greatest collaborations with the immune system. By understanding how immune memory works, medical science has been able to prevent countless deaths and eliminate diseases that once terrorized human populations. This success story demonstrates what becomes possible when we work with biological systems rather than against them, harnessing natural processes to achieve goals that would be impossible through any other means. Perhaps most remarkably, your immune system carries within it a complete history of your life's encounters with the microbial world. Memory B cells and T cells that formed during childhood infections may still be circulating in your body decades later, ready to provide protection if needed. Your immune system is, in a very real sense, a biological autobiography written in cellular memory, a record of every challenge you've overcome and every adaptation you've made. The complexity we've explored might seem overwhelming, but it should also be deeply comforting. You are not defenseless in a hostile world. You carry within you a sophisticated protection system that has been tested and refined over millions of years. The bacteria and viruses that cause disease have been evolving their own strategies for survival, but your immune system has been evolving counter-strategies for just as long. You are the product of an unbroken chain of ancestors who survived because their immune systems worked. Understanding your immune system can also foster a sense of connection to the broader web of life. The basic mechanisms of immunity are shared across virtually all complex life forms. The complement proteins that help clear bacteria from your bloodstream are evolutionary relatives of proteins found in sea urchins. The pattern recognition receptors that detect pathogen invasion in your cells are similar to those found in plants and fungi. Immunity connects you to the deep history of life itself. As you've learned about immune function, you may have noticed how often we've returned to themes of communication, coordination, and cooperation. Your immune cells are constantly talking to each other through chemical signals, sharing information about threats and coordinating responses. This cellular communication network rivals the complexity of your nervous system and demonstrates that intelligence and cooperation exist at every level of biological organization. The future of immunology holds tremendous promise for addressing diseases that have long resisted treatment. Advances in immunotherapy are revolutionizing cancer treatment, and similar approaches may eventually be applied to autoimmune diseases allergies, and even age-related conditions. Understanding how to modulate immune function precisely and safely could lead to treatments that work with your body's natural healing mechanisms rather than overwhelming them. Yet, alongside these exciting medical advances, we shouldn't lose sight of the simple, accessible ways you can support your immune system every day. Regular sleep, moderate exercise, stress management, and maintaining social connections all support immune function through well-established biological pathways. These lifestyle factors represent practical applications of immunological knowledge that anyone can implement. The immune system also offers lessons about resilience and adaptation. When faced with new challenges, immune cells can rapidly adjust their responses, learn from experience, and develop new strategies for protection. This biological resilience reflects principles that apply to other areas of life: the importance of diversity, the value of memory and learning, the need for balance between response and restraint. As our exploration comes to an end, remember that understanding your immune system is not just an intellectual exercise. This knowledge can inform decisions about sleep, stress management, nutrition, and healthcare that will serve you throughout your life. When you understand how your body protects itself, you become a better partner in that protection, able to make choices that support rather than undermine your natural defenses. If you've found value in this journey through the world of immunity, consider sharing this knowledge with others who might benefit from understanding their own biological defenses. Like immune memory that spreads protection through communities, scientific understanding grows stronger when it's shared widely and applied thoughtfully to improve human health and well-being. Tonight, as you settle into sleep, your immune system will continue its ancient work, strengthened by the rest you provide and guided by the wisdom of millions of years of evolution. In the quiet darkness, your cellular guardians will patrol, your memory cells will consolidate their knowledge, and your body will prepare for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. Sleep well, knowing that you are protected by one of nature's most remarkable achievements, an immune system that never sleeps so that you safely can.